If you're new here, we're Embrace the Suck 21.
Yes, we are.
I'm Spencer.
And I'm Daniel.
And this week we are celebrating 100,000 subscribers.
What?
Thank you, each and every one of y'all. We love y'all.
Yes,
Thanks for
we
sticking
do.
around with us. We're exploring the 5 niches that got us to where we are. Music, stick and ball sports, motorsports, comedy, and history. And today it's stick and ball sports. One of the first videos of ours that popped off was football chants.
Man.
And boy, did we get in hot water about that. One of them.
That was glorious.
Yep, that was. And since then, Dan over here has done on his own channel a Premier League journey.
Yeah.
And he's covered the World Cup on his channel. And we're going to cap that off with entire history of Premier League, I guess.
All right. I know that this is like hundreds of years crammed into only an hour. Whereas like some of these clubs that comprise the Premier League would take months to learn. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. It's going to go fast because there's a lot of teams. A lot of teams, a lot of history, a lot of derbies, a lot of rivalry.
If this is anything like, you know, history of the world, I guess, this will be like a big... Ugh.
Yeah, this is going to be a headache. I'm excited, man.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Football's been around for a long time. How long? This long.
That's a picture of a duck.
Shut up. First things first, what is football? Football is this thing. It is a round ball.
What's a ball?
Oh, for God's sake. There's one ball, 2 nets, and 22 men. And that, of course, comes to the World Freshwater Angling Fishing Championships.
Nice.
No, this is what the Premier League looked like, and this is what it looks like now. Have you noticed one big difference?
Yeah, there's 22 teams.
Oh, yeah. There was. The Premier League was formed in 1992. This came about at the end of the 1990-91 season. What season was that? No one knows. Any history before 1992 is completely irrelevant, according to Twitter. Who created the Premier League? This guy and this guy. Rick Parry and Sir John Quinton. Sir John. Look at how long his Wikipedia page is. Pathetic. Anyway, why did they change it to the Premier League? Since 1888, English football was always known as divisions. And as years went by, it went from the 1st division to 2nd to 3rd to 4th division, and that was it. With the other divisions down below. This would be over known as the scum. Who created the Football League? And 11 others. The Football League was completely fine and everyone accepted it since the dawn of time. So why did it change it? Of course, they want to make sure that the beautiful game in England can get bigger and bigger and become the best it could possibly be, and therefore making it more fairer and more peaceful for every single team to get to the top, right? No, play the song.
Already, man. Already. I mean, I've taken away 2 things so far. Is one, peaceful. Come on. Really?
Yeah, it's like bullshit. In what world? Like, all right.
And 2, the other thing I'm getting from it is it hasn't always been called Premier League. That was just from 1992 on. So it's as old as I am. I was born in 1992. I'm the same age as the Premier League.
Oh my God. Whereas I obviously remember yesteryear. The before.
The before.
Oh man.
It's saying press play. Should I do that?
I probably would.
Okay.
In the later 1980s, there was quite a low point in English football. Many stadiums were deteriorating, supporters endured poor facilities, and hooliganism was rife in English football. All English clubs were banned from European competition for 5 years, following, of course, the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985. And English football was always known as behind Italy, Serie A, and Spain's La Liga in both attendances and revenues, with many of the best English players moving abroad, such as Dennis Law, Kevin Keegan, David Platt, Graham Souness, Paul Ince, Gary Lineker, Les Ferdinand, and Paul Gascoigne. In 1990, with a 5-year ban in European competition lifted, and England reaching a semi-final in the 1990 World Cup, they knew that the time was now to change. English clubs realised that money was very key, and therefore many turned into business ventures, treating a club like a business to maximise revenue. This began with Martin Edwards at Manchester United, Irving Scholar at Tottenham Hotspur, and David Dean at Arsenal. And with this became the most important part of the deal: TV revenue. Top clubs seek to increase their power and revenue, and clubs in Division 1 threatened to break away from the Football League. Why have I seen this before? And TV revenue became paramount. In 1988, with the ITV, it rose to 44 million over 4 years. However, the leading clubs took 75% of that cash, already leading to a financial disparity. The big clubs were threatened to make their own Super League. And who are these big clubs? Well, let me present to you the Big Five: Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur, Everton and Arsenal. And with this, they knew that they couldn't do it themselves and they had to take the rest of the league with them. However, with this breakaway league, they knew that it would never have any sort of value without the backing of the FA. So at the end of the 1991 season, a proposal was officially took place, with the incentive to bring more money into the game overall, and to challenge the two biggest leagues at the time, Serie A and La Liga. The Premier League for the most part has complete independence from the Football League or the FA, meaning that especially commercially, they have no say in it, and many TV broadcasters went to that spot: ITV, BBC and Sky. So who won? Sky. Of course it was Sky. They won with a bid of 304 million over 5 years, with the BBC giving the highlights package of just a little show that you may have heard of called Match of the Day. And just like that, the 92-93 year would be the first year of the FA Premier League. Let's have a look at the initial 22 teams. Oh yeah, there's 22 teams. Why were there 22 teams? Well, I don't know. Okay then, so why is it now 20? That's because of the UEFA Champions League. The UEFA European Champion Cup became the UEFA Champions League, meaning there were more games to play in the Champions League. And due to the 2 extra teams in the Premier League, it made it harder for the actual Prem clubs to add it into their schedule. So they had to go from 22 to 20 to make it a bit more reasonable to schedule in those European games. However, with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, of course, as you are already well aware, the channel has been sponsored by
Lloyd Guitars. Are you a guitar player and you want a nice, high quality guitar that the greats like B.B. King, Eric Clapton, Noel Gallagher, John Lennon have all played, but just seems a little bit out of reach price-wise? Look no further than Lloyd Guitars. They make guitars with the same material all other big guitar manufacturers make, but at an affordable price.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just look at this thing. He's got the Brixby on there. This neck just plays really smoothly.
It just sounds nice, man. It sounds warm. I like it.
14 layers of paint applied over 3 days with bridges and pickups that stand out. Hand sanded fretboard.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. It's ready to rock and roll, man.
You're ready. I know that when we talk, he's always playing this thing. Fiddling around with it. It's awesome. Yeah, you can't separate this guitar from him. Oh man,
it's
nice.
just a warm sound right there.
Heck yeah. I got my new instrument cut out for me.
Yep, these should easily be $4,000-$5,000 guitars and basses, but you go online and they're not any more than about 600 pounds. How can you beat that for this level of quality here?
Yep. And you get a lot more than what you pay for.
This is gonna put rock and roll and just guitar-based music back into the hands of where it belongs, the common everyday folks. Hi, well, everybody else, thanks for making a great product. Thanks also for giving our audience 50 pounds off of their purchase. Use the promo codes right there on the screen. It's also linked down in the description to get 50 pounds off of your purchase. Thanks again, Lloyd Guitars, for sponsoring this portion of today's episode. Back to the video.
I had a cheeky look to see that last First Division year. Leeds United. Leeds United was 1 year just too early to become a Premier League champion. Do you know how painful that is? So who was in the first 22 teams? Well, they're on your screen now. I'm not going to name them all because I am lazy. But Oldham Athletic in there. Yeah, I still forget that they were there either. Anyway, let's begin. The 92-93 season and the first year of the Premier League. Who won it? Yeah, it was Man United. Obviously, that may become a reoccurring theme that you may see quite often here. Second, Aston Villa, and third, Norwich, going down Crystal Palace, Middlesbrough and Nottingham Forest. Top goal scorer, Teddy Sheringham, with 22 goals. Who scored the first goal in Premier League history? A man called Brian Deane for Sheffield United. Put that in your pub quiz. The Players Player of the Year was Paul McGrath, who was a centre-back for Aston Villa. And Young Player of the Year given to Ryan Giggs. He was 19 back then. I mean, saying that, I wasn't even born. Eric Cantona went from Leeds United to Manchester United and also got the first ever Premier League hat-trick. There were only one manager sacked across the entire season. Only one. Compare that to nowadays, yeah. If you want to know, that's Ian Porterfield at Chelsea, if you are curious. The lowest ever attendance in Premier League history was also in the season, when Wimbledon hosted Everton at Selhurst Park. Why Selhurst Park? I ain't got time to say it. With 3,039 people in attendance. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be beaten. The 93-94 year, guess who won it? It's Man United. And the first season for Sir Alex Ferguson. Well, back then, Alex Ferguson. Going down, Sheffield United, Oldham Athletic and Swindon Town. Swindon Town conceded 100 goals. Andy Cole at Newcastle United scored 34 goals. With Player of the Year being Eric Cantona and Andy Cole being Young Player of the Year. Top 4 was Man United, Blackburn Rovers, Newcastle United and also Arsenal. And in this season, the most expensive footballer signed by an English football team. Guess who it is? Do you know?
No.
Just give you 5. It's Roy Keane. Roy Keane from Nottingham Forest to Manchester United for 3.75 million. Bargain. Man United went unbeaten for 22 games.
Guess who
Won the Premier League? Manchester United? No. It was Blackburn. Yes, I'm a Burnley fan, and yes, I will never say that again. Blackburn.
I thought it was going to be 3 in a row, Man United, but I guess not.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I mean, the fact that this league is so young, like obviously English football has been a thing since the 1800s.
Yeah.
But like I was hoping like there'd be more like talk of that. Maybe they'll get into it later in the video. I don't know.
Well, no, because remember that if you're thinking about the history of football, that'd be a different video. Premier League is just the history of how it was, and it's you're right. It's not that old. It's not that old in the context of how old football is.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but the teams that comprise the Premier League are ancient.
Yeah,
like cricketers played football.
Yeah. Our grandparents were around when they were formed.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Pretty much. But there's a lot, man. This man is doing a pretty. Yes, is he gonna miss stuff? Yeah, of course.
Likely,
yeah, but I mean, God, to fit it all in an hour-long video, man. Cheers to him.
Yeah, man.
I couldn't even do it.
That's impressive. Really impressive.
It is.
Blackburn beat Man United to the title by 1 point on the final day. I wonder who Blackburn played on the final day. Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Saying that, it wasn't all because of Liverpool, as Man United slipped up and drew 1-1 at West Ham United. Alan Shearer with a season to remember, 34 goals. And also, fun fact, back in these days, the Champions League was the Champions League, where only one team from each nation actually took part, unlike nowadays. Therefore, only first place was actually given a Champions League spot. Also, this was the last year that there were 22 teams, meaning that relegation turned from 3 to 4. And who was that unfortunate 4th team? Well, it was Crystal Palace, going down with Norwich, Leicester and Ipswich Town. And the transfer record was broken yet again, with Andy Cole going from Newcastle to Manchester United. Was there anything? Oh yeah, Cantona karate kicked a fan. Cantona got sent off, and when leaving the pitch, got racially abused by a fan. Cantona, of course, karate kicked him, and was banned from football for 8 months. If this didn't happen, then maybe United will win another title. You already know who won the title. Manchester United with a 3rd title yet again. This was the fierce Ferguson v Keegan battle, with Man United and Newcastle fighting off to win the title. And on Boxing Day, Newcastle was 10 points clear at top of the league. And when both sides played again, Eric Cantona gave Man United a 1-0 away win to cut the gap to 1 single point. And fun fact, in case if both clubs tied for first place, the Premier League made preparations for a championship playoff match at Wembley. Imagine if that was a thing. For the final day, Man United led by 2 points, with Newcastle having to beat Tottenham and Middlesbrough to get something against Man United. And United won 3-0. And Newcastle drew. Dennis Bergkamp was also at Arsenal, before Arsene Wenger as well, which surprises me. Going down were Bolton, QPR and, Manchester City. Top goal scorer, Alan Shearer, 31 goals, no surprise there. Player of the year, Les Ferdinand at Newcastle, and Young Player of the year, Robbie Fowler at Liverpool. And fun fact, every single manager in the Premier League was either English, Scottish, or Irish. Makes you think, how has an English manager never won the Premier League? Well, blame Alex Ferguson. 96, 97.
Wow. Let me see what when this video came out. It was 2 months ago. Okay,
wow.
So an English manager still hasn't won the Premier League yet. Wow. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
What are y'all doing, England? Come on now.
It's coming home. Still on its way.
Yeah, ever since 1966. It's coming home every year.
Coming home every year. It just takes a little longer. Oh man.
7 was quite boring. You know the reason why. They won it again. Man United won with 75 points, which is by far the lowest points total for a Premier League champion since 1981. Middlesbrough was the story of the season though. Despite spending millions of pounds on players like Emerson, Fabrizio Ravanelli, Blanco and Gianluca Festa, they were relegated in the final game of the season. However, this wasn't the problem. Middlesbrough was given a 3-point deduction for postponing a fixture against Blackburn Rovers in December. The reason because they had 23 players ill or injured. The club consulted the Premier League saying that they were going to do what they thought was best to protect the integrity of the game and to avoid fielding a team full of teenagers. And the Premier League said no and deducted them 3 points, which meant that Coventry City stayed up ahead of them. This may not seem like a big deal, but back in these days this was a pretty big event. Nottingham Forest were also relegated too, but they're a big club, so I'm sure that we're going to see them again very soon. Okay, maybe not so soon. Ruud Gullit? Yeah, I completely forgot that Ruud Gullit was manager of Chelsea. By the way, Harry Redknapp, yeah, he's been at West Ham the entire time. He's still there. Top goal scorer, it's Alan Shearer again. Player of the season was Juninho at Middlesbrough, which is crazy considering they went down. And young player of the year being a young lad called David Beckham. Oh yeah, and in this year, there was a new manager at Arsenal. What was his name? Arsene Wenger. In the 97-98 year, there was a new winner of the Premier League, and that team was, of course, Arsenal. In Arsene Wenger's first Premier League year, he won the Premier League.
You any feelings of Arsenal coming up for you now?
I love this team. I love the way, like, if their goalie could just block their opponent's goals as much as Arsenal blocks my fucking videos, they would be unstoppable. Right? Like, good God, man. Good God. A lot of people couldn't score against Arsenal, neither could I. So,
well, your problem is that whoever controls their media are a bunch of boomers that don't understand social media. So
boomers with Arsenal, problem. That's a good pun. That's a good pun because they're the Gunners.
That's right.
You know thine enemy. God, man.
And became the second team to do the double for the second time, joining Manchester United after winning the league title and then also the FA Cup, and also became the first manager outside of the British Isles to win a league title in England. Runners-up was obviously Manchester United, and unfortunately the 3 teams that came up from the Championship, or at the time was Division 1, all went down in Barnsley, Bolton Wanderers and Crystal Palace. And the top goal scorer, you guessed it, not Alan Shearer. It was actually joined with Dion Dublin at Coventry City, Michael Owen and Chris Sutton. Also, there was a new logo for the Premier League which had a lion's head. Another pub quiz fact for you right there. And the Premier League's foreign contingent continued to grow from several players from overseas, such as Arsenal's Nicolas Anelka, Chelsea's Gianluca Vialli and Man United's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But if this season can be remembered for anything, it is Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, as which we'll find out in later years, his innovative training methods and tactical approach not just revolutionised Arsenal, but will later on revolutionise the entirety of the Premier League. The 98-99 Premier League season was one of the most dramatic and memorable campaigns in the league's history.
Oh really? That means there was a new winner, right?
Ha ha ha. No. Manchester United won it again, claiming their 5th Premier League in the last 7 seasons. However, it did go down to a single point, finishing ahead of Arsenal and Chelsea in a tightly contested title race. The title was secured on the final day when United beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-1 at Old Trafford. Oh hi there, it's Leeds. Leeds with a very impressive 4th place finish. Charlton Athletic, Blackburn Rovers and Nottingham Forest. Oh wait, they came back again. Sorry about that. See, we're going to see Forest again, aren't we? Oh. Also, hello there. Derby County came 8th place. By the way, the entire time, guess who's there? It's Wimbledon. A team that you may not really think about now when you think of Premier League, but they were in there for like many years, and they just kind of resisted until they didn't. Thanks to MK Dons. For back-to-back seasons, there were 3 people who were joint top goal scorer in Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Michael Owen and Dwight York. Manager of the season, Alex Ferguson again. Player of the season is York, and young player of the year is Nicolas Anelka. Chelsea were 4th place, which may surprise you considering most people seem to forget that they were still a decent team before Roman Abramovich. And West Ham in 5th place were also a great achievement, making great progress under Harry Redknapp. Good old Harry. And just like that, into the 2000s, and that means that there'll be a new winner, right? No, Man United won, but not in a normal way. No, no, they won by 18 points. 18 points. Now I understand why people hate you guys. The pain and suffering that these guys must have caused people is unfathomable. Unfathomable? That's a word now. Leeds came at 3rd place.
Is Man United to the Premier League what I don't know, the Steelers and the Patriots are to the NFL.
I would probably say that's a fair comparison.
Yeah, or the Yankees and the MLB, Hendrick Motorsports in NASCAR, like the team that everyone hates because they win all the time.
Yep, and also where a lot of the funding goes.
Oh yeah, a lot of funding. Yep.
There's more funding for the winners, and when you consistently win, you're constantly getting funded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
more money coming in, which is the same case of all the other teams that I mentioned.
Yep,
so.
like Yankees. They just buying people left and right, man, because they can.
Yeah. Exactly.
And qualified for the Champions League third qualifying round. Leeds were actually a good team, and why were they a good team? Well, I'll tell you why. Michael Bridges. Do you even know who he is? Probably not. They also had 4 players in the team of the year in Harry Kewell, Ian Hart, Gary Kelly, and Nigel Martin. I don't even know who 3 of those guys are. Top goal scorer? Oh, well, it was obviously Alan Shearer. Kevin Phillips? Kevin Phillips scored 30 goals in the Premier League year for Sunderland. Where were Sunderland? 7th place, which is decent, actually. The 3 teams go down on Wimbledon, Sheffield Wednesday, and Watford with 24 points. Some things never change. Bradford City, considering they were 17th, they qualified for Europe for the Intertoto Cup. Why? I don't know why. I actually don't know how they qualified for it. I'm trying to find it out. Tell me down below. Ruud Gullit, by the way, he was manager of Newcastle. Forgot that even happened as well. Some new young players took the Premier League this year, such as some young talents which you may have heard of called Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, and John Terry. And also Arsenal have become France, with their team becoming stacked with talents such as Patrick Vieira, Nicolas Anelka, and a young Frenchman called, what was his name? Thierry Henry. I'm sure that he will not become a problem. Also, big shout out to Norberto Solano at Newcastle, who was at the top of the assist charts with 15 assists, which is pretty good. They won it again. 7th Premier League title in 9 years, finishing ahead of Arsenal and Liverpool. Leeds are 4th, but no one cares. Who's 5th? Ipswich. Ipswich Town was 5th in the Premier League. Remarkable. A lad called Marcus Stewart scored 19 goals for Ipswich. I never knew this even happened. And the manager George Burley won Manager of the Year, which is cute. It's not like Sir Alex hasn't also won enough. Player of the Year was Patrick Vieira, and Young Player of the Year was Steven Gerrard. Top goal scorer, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank with 23 goals for Chelsea. Up the Chelsea. Man City went down again, but back in these days that were not a surprise. Also going down is Coventry City and Bradford City. Get in! Get in there! Come on! Another team has won the Premier League, and that team is, of course, okay, it's Arsenal, but anyone but United at this stage. You think that I'm joking, however, this was actually the mentality of most fans back in this era. And do you know when I said that Ipswich were like 5th? Yeah, they're relegated, but qualified also for the UEFA Cup. Because they were winners of the Premiership Fair Play League. I don't understand how that imagine if that was a thing now. Going down as well were Derby County and Leicester City. Back to Arsenal, they won the league by 7 points. Top goal scorer, I think you know who it is Thierry Henry, with 24 goals. And you know when I said that Arsenal are now basically France, top of the assists, another Frenchman called Robert Pires. Man United, for the first time in what feels like 5,000 years, were actually not 1st or 2nd. They came 3rd when Liverpool were runners up. And for the first time in the history of the Premier League, all 3 teams that got promoted all stayed up in Fulham, Bolton Wanderers, and Blackburn Rovers. The title was famously won at Old Trafford, pretty much. When Arsenal faced Man United, Watford scored, and Arsenal were confirmed Premiership champions. This year had Newcastle and Leeds being quite competitive, as Leeds topped the table at Christmas. However, the entire time, by the way, Everton are still there. I've not really spoke about them because they kind of did nothing. For the last 8 to 9 years, they've kind of always been between like 12th or 16th. Other than 1 year in 96, they were like 6th place. But other than that, they were pretty much just kind of existing. And also Aston Villa, what were they doing? Well, I'll tell you. They were always pretty decent, but never in the top 4. Always around kind of 5th place to 10th place pretty much every single year.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody that is a diehard Everton fan, and this person says the pride of Everton is that they've never been deregulated, or whatever that term is. They've never dropped all the way down and not been in the top of the Premier League.
Which is crazy, which is a feat in and of itself. You know, like that's the one. Man, I mean, I'm not going to, this is not the video to get on the soapbox, but it's just very interesting. It's very interesting to see that there are teams that just stay up there, you know, where they're not the top 1, but they're always in the talks. And I love how it's just a constant conveyor belt of change, just cycles of change, new teams in, new teams out, or old teams out.
Yeah, a lot of parity in it. Yep. And And also the other side of the coin, like my team picked out of a hat, Manchester City, being deregulated, but later on in the video we'll see that they've had success in the 2010s and 2020s.
Yes.
They won it again for the 8th time in 11 years, which was a remarkable achievement considering Arsenal were top of the league by 8 points by the 2nd of March. Arsenal were very good as they equaled a top flight record of 14 straight wins in a row and unbeaten for 30 Premier League games, and scored in a record 55 consecutive league games, and it fell to you-know-who, Man United. Oh hi, it's Southampton, who qualified in Europe for the first time since 1984, going down with an awful 19 points were Sunderland, joined with West Brom and West Ham United, Bolton just staying up on the final day. West Ham's 42 points was the highest points total there were for a team that still got relegated and may still stay away for a long time. Unlucky lads. Top goal scorer, Ruud van Nistelrooy, 25 goals for Man United. However, shout out to James Beattie and Mark Viduka, who was quite good as well. Player of the year, Thierry Henry. And young player of the year was actually Jermaine Genius. Looking at the shortlist, there was the likes of Craig Bellamy, Jermaine Defoe, John O'Shea, Scott Parker and Wayne Rooney. Manager of the year, you know who it is. And Man City qualified for Europe. Not because they were good, but because they won the Fair Play Award. I find this completely mad because I found what this actually meant. You got points for red, yellow cards, makes sense. You got points for positive play, you got points for respect towards opponents, whatever that means, respect towards referee, and behaviour of team officials. The fact that this actually got a European spot is still nuts to me.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused about that fair play rule.
Yeah, what the hell? That's news to me, man.
Yeah.
If it was told to me, it wasn't told in a way that I could remember.
Yeah,
Like,
I figure if you knew something about it, you probably would have said something by now. But
yeah, I'm just like, what? Because remember, like, this is a whole. I love this video because this is like combining all of my journey into one video.
Yeah,
this video didn't exist when I was doing my Premier League deep dive.
Yeah, it's like you have stuff to talk about with it, and I'm coming into this thing fresh.
And it's just like, it's just mind blowing. I mean, granted, I didn't do the Premier League as a whole, really. Like, we did that one video together for my channel.
Arsenal,
like an intro-esque.
Yeah.
It should have been, this is everyone watching. This is my outro video. You know what I mean?
This is the outro to his Premier League deal.
And we did it.
Yeah, yeah. Don't y'all be coming back to him for anything. Stick to Nightwish.
Yeah, right? Oh my God, man. But for real though, it's so interesting how like some teams just get relegated and stuff. It's just it made me appreciate this sport so much more.
Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs with it.
Oh yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 2003 or 4 year was pretty boring and nothing really special happened. Okay, I'll say it. Arsenal won the Premier League, but not in any normal way, but by being invincible. There you go, I said it. That's what you've been waiting for the entire time. Arsenal fans, you can now click off the video. I know you've been waiting the entire goddamn time. Arsenal, with 38 games played, won 26 and drew 12 times, with 0 losses. Winning the league, 11 points clear of Chelsea. Oh, hi Chelsea. Why are Chelsea second? Oh, a team that included Damien Duff, Hernan Crespo, Claude Bekalele, Veron, Scott Parker, and of course, the best one of all, Glenn Johnson. Top goal scorer, Thierry Henry with 30 goals. Player of the year, you know who. And young player of the year, actually no, it was actually Scott Parker. Also massive shout out to the boy himself, the boy, Yakubu. He only scored 16 goals, but Yakubu for me is still a hero, so big shout out to him. One important thing as well. This year was the start of something special, and what was that? It was called a top 4. Back in the good old days, we didn't have such thing as a top 6, because Man City and Tottenham, they weren't really that relevant. Top 4 being Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United. As for the first time, the top 4 had both these 4 teams, and will be with these 4 teams for quite a long time, and you see that quite soon. It became so bad that the likes of Kevin Keegan said that the top 4 dominants may make the Premier League the most boring but greatest league in the world. Anyway, back into this year, Newcastle came 5th, and hello, Charlton came 7th. Going down was the likes of Leicester City, which feels like for the 8th time now, and Leeds United with Wolverhampton Wanderers. You may be like, wait, Leeds going down? I thought they were pretty good. Well, they were pretty good, but if you don't know, they lived the dream. Basically, their ownership was run by morons, and they spent way too much money than what they could really afford. And when they didn't qualify for the Champions League in the previous year, then that means that they were in the complete mud. I'm sure that we'll see them again soon. you know what happened. Everton 17th and almost going down. Qualified for Europe? Well, Middlesbrough, as if you won the League Cup, you qualify for the UEFA Cup. And there was also one more European spot. But who was that to? Well, there was only 2 in Premier League, so... Millwall, who was in the Championship. Because Millwall was in the FA Cup final and he lost to Manchester United. That means that they took the UEFA Cup spot, even though Aston Villa probably should have got it. It's stupid, but that's how it used to work back in these days. 04-05. This year was pretty big. Why was it pretty big? 3 words. The special one. Chelsea won the Premier League in record-breaking fashion, winning the league with 95 points. Welcome Jose Mourinho to the Premier League.
Wow, someone other than Man United and Arsenal winning?
That's crazy.
Wow.
It was like their show for almost a decade.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, who's going to win? It's almost like who's coming in second or third? Who's, at that point, you're just so used to either one winning. You're just like, okay, so it's like the game, the title goes to one of those two.
Yeah.
But the interesting game is who's third. It's because like Super Bowls for a long time, for your whole life, are almost like, who are the Patriots playing and who beat the Patriots? Like that's what the Super Bowl was.
Basically, yeah.
So that's all right, cool.
Pretty much.
I'm sure that you may have heard of him. And the top 4 had the managers in place, with Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Rafa Benitez, and Alex Ferguson. Harry Redknapp, by the way, is still in Premier League. This time, right now, he's at Southampton. So, the more you know. He was at Portsmouth, but now he's at Southampton. Everton qualified for the Champions League by finishing 4th place. Wait, I swear to God they were almost down last year. Everton was 17th, and now they're 4th place. And now they're in the Champions League. What's happened, you may say? Well, David Moyes, apparently. The relegation battle was a complete banger, by the way, as it all went down to the final game of the year, with West Brom, Palace, Norwich, and Southampton all could go down with only 1 spot available. And who survived in that spot? Lo and behold, West Bromwich Albion, with one of the best survival stories in Premier League history. West Brom was bottom of the league for quite a long chunk of the year, and at Christmas were 8 points clear from safety. West Brom beat Pompey on a day, and were the first time in Premier League history to not go down while being bottom at Christmas. Arsenal's invincible record was also broke this year. Their unbeaten streak of 49 games were ended by Manchester United at Old Trafford, losing 2-0. In other news, qualifying for Europe, 2 pretty interesting teams in Bolton Wanderers and Middlesbrough. Top goal scorer, Thierry Henry. Of course. Player of the year was John Terry, and young player of the year being a young lad at Man United called Wayne Rooney. And also, I didn't mention it, but Chelsea had an incredible record as they only conceded 15 goals the entire year. That's 15 goals. Crazy. Conceding only 15 goals is probably going to be the record that would never be beaten. Chelsea won again. Jose Mourinho was a darling of the Premier League at this time period. And by darling, I mean no one can stop talking about him. Chelsea beat Man United 3-0 at Stamford Bridge to win the trophy. Chelsea was in the driving seat to become the champions since the start of the year, as they won 14 out of the first 16 games. They had a bit of a collapse in mid-March, but went on to win the title anyway. And the top 4 is there yet again. Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Also, as well, if you didn't know, to qualify for the Champions League, only the top 2 is guaranteed in the group stage, while 3rd and 4th had to go through the 3rd qualifying round. In the same thing that 5th and 6th also qualified for the UEFA Cup first round, but not actually in the group stage. And qualifying for the UEFA Cup was Tottenham, Blackburn, and West Ham. Going down was Birmingham City, West Bromwich Albion, and Sunderland with 15 points. Top goal scorer, yeah, it's him again, Thierry Henry. And the most assists, may surprise you, is actually Didier Drogba, which I didn't think he had that in him. Big shout out as well to Wigan Athletic, who came 10th, which back in these days were quite an achievement. Paul Jewell doing a fantastic job there. Player of the year being Steven Gerrard, and young player of the year being Wayne Rooney yet again. Manager of the year, of course, Jose Mourinho. The 05-06 season had a big goodbye to 2 legends of the Premier League, being Alan Shearer and Dennis Bergkamp. And to shout out some teams that I've not really mentioned so far, shout out to Fulham, Portsmouth, and Middlesbrough. I just felt like saying it. After 3 years of not winning the title, United are back. Promoted teams being Reading, Sheffield United, and also Watford. Reading for the first time in their entire history being in top flight. And Sheffield United first time in top flight for 12 years. So Reading, you must have thought they went down, right? Right? They came 8th. 8th? How did they come 8th? Top 4 is always same thing. United, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Qualifying for the UEFA Cup, Tottenham, Everton, and Bolton Wanderers. Looking back, I didn't actually realise how often Bolton was actually qualifying for Europe. And also same thing for Blackburn. Came 10th, but qualified for the Intertoto Cup. I forgot what the Intertoto Cup is. Pompey, 9th place. Fair play, lads. A poor season for Man City in 14th place, but don't worry, I don't think there's going to be any Dubai shakes around. The relegation fight was tense on the final day, as 17th place Wigan and 18th place Sheffield United were joint on points, and only by 1 single goal One single goal and goal difference meant that Wigan stayed up in the Premier League, with Charlton Athletic and Watford going down. Incredible fact, Wigan and Sheffield United were joint on wins, joint on draws, and joint on losses. Literally incredible. But it didn't come without controversy. West Ham escaped relegation and final game of the season, with a 1-0 win over Man United, with Carlos Tevez scoring the winner. However, Tevez was subsequently found to be ineligible to play, as technically he was not owned by West Ham, but by a third party. Sheffield United then sued the Premier League and was given a 30 million compensation. Top goal scorer, Didier Drogba with 20 goals. Only 20. Shout out to Benny McCarthy at Blackburn, who scored 18. And third place is a young lad that you may have heard of called Cristiano Ronaldo. The 15,000th goal in Premier League history was also scored. Guess who scored it? You have no idea who. Marit Vols. The more you know. Players Player of the Year is Ronaldo, and Young Player of the Year is also Ronaldo. I think this is the first time that the same player won the Player of the Year and also Young Player of the Year, and the Team of the Year was stacked, as the goalkeeper was Man United, the entire back four was Man United, and the 3 players of the midfield were also all Man United. Harry Redknapp is also at Pompey. Just wanted to let you know.
Man, to see the drama down at the regulation line, like, that's just as entertaining as up at the top. Yeah. I mean, granted, at the top it's the big 4, so they're kind of stinking up the show a bit. So I guess that's where the drama is down there.
That's where the cutthroat. That's where the passion is at the bottom of that list. It's like, well, the passion's everywhere, but I'm just saying, you want a good watch any of those games that are happening at the bottom of that chart.
Oh yeah.
They get mad intense.
I bet.
Yep, they won it again. The first full season of the Barclays Premier League. Who scored the first goal of the Barclays Premier League? Well, you've got it wrong, it's Michael Chopra. Who was the top 4, you may say? The same. United winning by 2 points, Chelsea coming second place, Arsenal third, and Liverpool fourth. And incredibly, 9 teams qualified for Europe, with the top 4, Everton, Aston Villa, Portsmouth, Man City, and also Tottenham Hotspur. The highest scoring match in Premier League history also happened in the season, as Portsmouth beat Reading 7-4. And I don't think that has been beaten, so the more you know. Promoted to the Prem was Sunderland, Birmingham City, and you've been waiting for it, Derby County. What happened to Derby? Derby finished bottom, obviously, but not in normal circumstances, but with 11 points. They won 1 game, drew 8, and lost 29. Who was that one game they won? Newcastle. How bad must you be? A record, obviously, of the lowest points total in Prem history, and very highly that will ever be beaten. On a final game of the year, Man United beat Wigan Athletic 2-0, while Chelsea drew 1-1 to Bolton Wanderers. The title race went right to the wire, as Man United and Chelsea were both joint on 84 points. United faced Wigan away, while Chelsea had Bolton Wanderers. And United beat Wigan 2-0, and Chelsea drew to Bolton 1-1, therefore crowning Man United their 10th Premier League title, and also 1 title below Liverpool, who had 18. There was also a good dogfight to the final day between Bolton, Fulham, Reading, and Birmingham, and on a rare occasion, all 3 teams scrapping all won on the final day, with Reading beating Derby 4-0, Birmingham beating Blackburn 4-1. However, Fulham beat Portsmouth 1-0, meaning that Fulham survived by goal difference ahead of Reading by having 3 goals better. And also on the last day, Middlesbrough beat Manchester City 8-1. And one more notable thing as well, the Premier League topped the UEFA official ranking list, overtaking La Liga for the first time in over 2 decades. This was largely due to the fact that both Man United and Chelsea reached the Champions League final. Golden Boot, who did it go to? You know who he went to. Cristiano Ronaldo. And if you want some throwbacks, I'll give you some names here. With 24 goals, Fernando Torres and Adebayor, Roque Santa Cruz, and Ben Johnny. Ben Johnny, what a boy. Manager of the Year, Sir Alex, of course, for the 8th time. Player of the Year, Ronaldo, of course. Young Player of the Year, Cesc Fabregas at Arsenal. But yeah, seriously, Derby, how can one team be that bad? United did it again. United with their 11th Premier League, with a close title fight between them and Liverpool. Despite Liverpool doing a double against United, a series of draws held their campaign, and it went all the way to the penultimate weekend of the season. And in big news that I'm sure will not become a problem is that Man City got took over by Abu Dhabi United Group, transforming Man City to becoming one of the most wealthiest clubs in the world, securing the signing of Fabinho for a British record of £32.5 million. And the top 4, You know who it was. Which meant for the 7th time in a row, the top 4 was the same 4 teams. And also the UEFA Cup and the Intertoto Cup were both scrapped and rebranded, meaning that the traditional 5th, 6th or 7th being qualified for Europe is now a much more common thing. Only for the caveat of whoever wins the FA Cup can also get a European spot too. And qualifying for Europe was Everton, Aston Villa and hey, look, it's Fulham. In Man City's first full season since being bought out, they only finished 10th. And who went up to the Prem? West Brom, Stoke City and Hull City. Hull in the Prem for the first time in their entire history. And Stoke City for the first time in 23 years. Oh yeah, by the way, Jose Mourinho was no longer at Chelsea. It was Scolari and then Gus Hiddink. And also big up to Sam Allardyce. That basically in the entire 2000s, he was at Bolton and he was the main reason why they were doing good. I didn't really say that and I felt bad by not saying it. So big up Big Sam. And incredibly, Alan Shearer was now manager of Newcastle. That means they stayed up, right? No. Going down was Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and West Bromwich Albion. Going down to the final game of the season between Borough, Newcastle, Hull, and Sunderland, Middlesbrough lost 2-1 to West Ham, and Newcastle lost 1-0 to Aston Villa, meaning that Hull City and Sunderland stayed up despite both having home defeats. Top goal scorer, they surprised me, but Nicolas Anelka with 19 goals. Second being Ronaldo, and third being Steven Gerrard. PFA Player of the Year being Ryan Giggs, who's been around since the start of this video, and Young Player of the Year being Ashley Young at Aston Villa. And also a big shout out to the incredible 4-4 draw between Arsenal and Liverpool. There's something nostalgic about Arshavin. Harry Redknapp is still there, by the way. He's at Spurs now, so the more you know. And David Moyes is still at Everton since forever.
All right, so I'm taking 2 things away from that. Is one, man, that's a big blow to Alan Shearer right there. Like first year as a manager and all the way down.
Yeah.
But I guess it takes a little bit of growing pains to transition from player to manager or team owner or something like that.
It's what amazes me is that most of these guys have this ingrained loyalty to their club. So even after their prime, they'll go back to let's say the club that made them. Yeah. Right? Or the club that's been the best to them. And they'll become coach or they'll become part of the club, not just as a player. So it's just super interesting. It just keeps the cycle going, and you would never see that here in the NFL. Never. I mean, rarely does a player become like a sidelines coach or a assistant coach. And it never happens too often.
Right. All the greats, they go to TV, or they go into other business ventures. Yep. It's never that they go back to their team. No. And the other thing I'm taking away from it is this might be this is probably the transition point for Man City being bought out by that Abu
Dhabi guy.
Abu Dhabi guy. That's
company.
So I expect.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'll probably see the up and up of them going forward. What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say the Abu Dhabi. When you introduced foreign money and stuff to it, it ruffled lots of feathers.
Oh, it probably did. I don't doubt that at all.
It's the English football. It's the European football. What the hell is that money doing there? But
it's the same sentiment about a lot of American business people, like the Fenway Group buying into Liverpool, and Ryan Reynolds buying into Wrexham. Although that was a different league, but also a net positive.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to me because the sport itself started as the sport of fans, you know, and the Premier League I feel has this stigma of being over commercialized or turning into becoming over commercialized or being what is it called? Selling out.
That's the right term right there. Selling out. So I get that sentiment.
Man United were on for the quadruple, and fortunately for us all, they just couldn't get over the line. Chelsea dethroning them and doing a double as well, and breaking a record of 103 goals in one season. The race for the title went down to the final game of the season, with Chelsea only 1 point ahead of Man United. Chelsea needing to beat Wigan, and United needing to beat Stoke City. And did Chelsea beat Wigan? Yeah. 8-0. Who was manager? Carlo Ancelotti. I kind of forget that he was at Chelsea. Chelsea was an attacking threat this year, with Didier Drogba having a golden boot of 29 goals and having an average of 2.71 goals per game. And Prem history was also made, with Portsmouth becoming the first club to go to administration whilst being a member of the Premier League, and they were docked 9 points. Who got promoted, you may say? It was Wolves, Birmingham City, and, well, hey, Burnley. Did Burnley stay up? No, we're only back in the top flight for 33 years, which went well. And was the top 4 the same teams? Well, no, because for the first time in 5 years, a new team broke into it, being Tottenham Hotspur. A famous win for Tottenham Hotspur beating Man City at the Etihad meant that they qualified ahead of them, which was a big deal at the time, and meaning the first time that Tottenham was ever in the Champions League. Qualifying for Europe was City, Aston Villa and Liverpool, and manager of the year being Harry Redknapp, for the first time in his career, and he's been around for a long time, due to him taking Tottenham Hotspur into top 4. The PFA Player of the Year was Wayne Rooney, and Young Player of the Year being James Milner. And also, just want to mention that Joe Hart from Birmingham City was in PFA Player of the Year, and Richard Dunn from Aston Villa. Fair play, lads. Yeah, United are back. United won again, and I'm not going to act surprised. Winning their 12th Premier League title, they secured a title with a 1-1 draw away at Blackburn Rovers, and making a 19th English League title, tying with Liverpool. There were some rule changes for the Prem too, including a homegrown players rule, which aimed to encourage the development of young footballers at Prem clubs. And there were one new team to the party. Everyone welcome Blackpool, coming to the Prem for the first time in 39 years. And of course, Newcastle and West Brom went up as well. This year also marked the first time that Man City broke into the top 4. Finishing 3rd place joint with Chelsea. This may become a problem. Qualifying for Europe was Spurs, Fulham and Stoke City. Stoke City qualified as they were the FA Cup runners-up. Also, sorry as well, Birmingham City. They also got into Europe too, after being relegated. The cup rules are so crazy, man. The 2010-11 relegation scrap was fantastic, with all Blackpool, Birmingham, Wolves, Wigan and Blackburn all at risk of going down. Blackpool needing a win at Old Trafford, with Birmingham City also needing a result against Spurs. Wolves and Blackburn played against each other, and Wigan played Stoke upon a day. For many people, this is remembered as the best title fight in Premier League history. Blackpool, despite being ahead at Old Trafford, sadly lost a game and went down. Birmingham City as well went to Spurs with a big ask and also lost and sadly went down. Wigan, needing a big win, beat Stoke, meaning that they stayed up. And Wolves lost to Blackburn on final game of the season, but fortunately, due to Birmingham and Blackpool both losing, they survived by the skin of their teeth. Top goal scorer being joint with Berbatov and Carlos Tevez from both United and City. Robin van Persie also enters the frame with 18 goals. Manager of the year is, of course, Sir Alex. PFA Player of the Year being Gareth Bale at Tottenham Hotspur, and Young Player of the Year being Jack Wilshere. And it was a new era for Liverpool as Rafa Benitez left and Roy Hodgson came in, and he lasted about 5 months.
Not a long time.
Yeah, I think you know how this one ended. When Man City were bought out by Abu Dhabi ownership, there were always many questions of would they be able to ever beat their rivals. Of course, being Man United, who were at a time unstoppable. City, known by many of their fans to be known as being typical City and by dropping the ball when it matters the most. That is why when the final game of the season came, when both Man City and Manchester United were both in a title fight. City had relegation threatened QPR, and United had to beat Sunderland away. They were both joint by points, by wins, by draws and by losses, but by goal difference, City had an edge, being ahead by 8 goal difference. Despite City being 2-1 down by the 90th minute, they somehow made the remarkable comeback that I think you all very well know by the famous Sergio Aguerooo moment. Winning the title with almost a last kick in the final game to win their first ever Premier League title and the 3rd ever English title in their history, overthrowing their dominant and fierce rivals in Manchester United. And I remember reflecting back that most people was really happy to see a new team win the title, because in this period it was really anyone else but Man United, it felt like. And also a new Prem record of the first time the Premier League was ever won by goal difference. Anyway, going into who went up. The Prem welcomed 2 relatively new sides in QPR and Swansea City alongside the usual Norwich City. Swansea back in the Prem for the first time in 28 years and QPR for the first time in 15. For most of the season, Tottenham was 3rd place and was seemingly always happy to keep top 4. However, with only 4 wins in their last 13 games, they finished a point below Arsenal, which made it all the more painful as even though they finished 4th, they didn't qualify for the Champions League. That is because, of course, in 2011-12, Chelsea won the Champions League, taking that final Champions League spot ahead of Spurs, despite them finishing ahead of them. Qualifying for Europe was Newcastle in 5th and Liverpool in 8th, even though Everton was actually 7th and ahead of Liverpool. This is due to the fact that Liverpool won the League Cup, which, again, to Everton, gotta hurt. The relegation battle was also interesting, with Aston Villa, QPR and Bolton Wanderers all fighting to stay up, while Blackburn Rovers and Wolves were already relegated. And despite QPR losing away to Man City, Bolton can only get a draw at Stoke, meaning they went down as well. That means that the second time in Premier League history, none of the 3 promoted clubs from the Championship got relegated, with Swansea and Norwich finishing 11th and 12th respectively. Top goal scorer is Robin van Persie with 30 goals for Arsenal. I'm sure that he will stay at Arsenal. Absolutely. Manager of the season was Alan Pardew of Newcastle, doing a great job with a 5th place finish. PFA Player of the Year being Robin van Persie, and Young Player of the Year being Kyle Walker at Tottenham Hotspur. A great year for Newcastle as he had the great duo of Demba Ba and Papi Cisse. Nothing but good vibes for the two. Chelsea sacked Carlo Ancelotti and brought in a young manager in Andre Villas-Boas, which then they sacked him and then brought in Roberto Di Matteo, who won the Champions League, which I still find mad.
Man, that I knew that, Man City being bought by that Abu Dhabi team would mean a step in the right direction. I just got my phone, but
he's passionate, guys. He's passionate.
Yeah, and I guess I was late to the game with becoming a Man City fan, because that would have been an amazing game to have just watched on TVs. Man City v Man United, and like
last second goal, man.
Yeah.
Last fucking second goal, man. Oh, you gotta love those, man. There's a lot of them. I mean, not too many, but there's a lot of last minute goals that really don't matter. But there's some that just, oh my God. Those matches.
It's storybook,
Yep.
It's storybook. It's a movie, basically.
Yep.
And it's something I'm noticing, or maybe I've just not been paying attention, or I need to learn my Welsh geography. Swansea in the Premier League now? Or does Wales not have its own soccer league? Does it just incorporate with the Premier League in England? I thought it was just England. I could be ignorant on that.
I'm pretty sure I completely forgot. Yeah, I'm not the person to ask.
Right. Because I know Scotland has its own football league. I mean, you'll never see Rangers or Celtic in the Premier League, so that's a completely different thing. I know that much. Same with Ireland. Like, obviously, they're two different countries, but I was just like, that caught my eye. Swansea?
Interesting. Let us know, guys. That's what the comment section's for.
Yeah. Try and be nice sometimes.
Try, please.
You can't tell that to this crowd.
When it comes to football, the gloves are off. We know that.
Pretty much.
So,
yeah.
Remember Robin van Persie? Well, he got a Guard of Honour at Arsenal while winning the league for Manchester United. United with their 13th Prem title after beating Aston Villa 3-0 at Old Trafford. They completely dominated the league this year, winning by 11 points. And was the end of an era, as this was the last year for the great Sir Alex Ferguson. The 3 teams going up to the Prem were 3 teams that you've seen quite a bit now, in Reading, Southampton and West Ham United. And sadly, QPR and Reading were relegated with quite a bit of time to go. The battle for relegation was a fierce one up until the final day. The relegation battle were between Wigan, Sunderland, Newcastle and Aston Villa, with also Southampton too. However, sadly, Wigan going down, but they did end up qualifying for Europe, as they did win the 2012-13 FA Cup this season, so congrats lads. Luis Suarez also popped up this year with some great moments, especially over his demolishing over Norwich that feels like the 5th time. Qualifying for Champions League, United, City, Chelsea and Arsenal, with Spurs only 1 point behind Arsenal. Big shout out to Everton this year, which finished 6th place, and also the recent new boys Swansea after their 2nd year being 9th place and also winning a League Cup, qualifying for the Europa League 3rd round. I still cannot believe that Wigan were in a group stage of the Europa League. Rubin Kazan, Maribor and Zolti Vargem, they beat Maribor. Fair play. Top goal scorer this year is a man called Robin van Persie. There were some iconic players popping up this year. One by the name of Christy Benteke at Aston Villa, who was smashing the league this year, and also the GOAT of all GOATs, Michu, scoring 19 goals and 18 goals respectively. Gareth Bale with a fantastic season for Spurs, just missing out on dragging him over the line for the Champions League. Manager of the year, you know who it is, Sir Alex Ferguson, and will be his last one unfortunately, because sadly, as we all know, at the end of this year, he retired from management. Player of the year was Gareth Bale, and Young Player of the Year was Gareth Bale. I wonder if Gareth Bale will stay at Tottenham.
Man, end of an era.
It's crazy how much of a revolving door coaching is. Like management. Like, oh my God. It's either you're the most winningest or you're out the door halfway through the season.
Like, there's no in between with it. Like, it's almost more revolving at like Walmart or
Yes.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Man.
Oh man.
High standards.
Gareth Bale didn't stay at Tottenham. The 13-14 season had some incredible entertainment, and our main entertainers were going by the name of Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea. This season will always be remembered by two certain players, Luis Suarez and Steven Gerrard. Actually, count that three. Demba Ba. People actually forget that Man City won the league or how they won the league. They probably don't even know how they even won their last game because no one really cares. All of the eyes were on two matches, Liverpool v Chelsea and Crystal Palace v Liverpool. With 3 games left to play, Liverpool were 5 points clear of the top, 5 points clear of Chelsea. Man City did have 2 games left in hand. However, even with those 2 wins, they would still be 3 points behind Liverpool. Up came a huge game against Chelsea. After just recently beating Man City at Anfield, confidence were high for the Reds. And of course, in this game, it is the most iconic moment in recent Premier League history, alongside even for me the Aguerooo moment, is when of course Steven Gerrard slipped at a halfway line and Demba Ba went on through and slotted away past Simon Mignolet. This was perfectly attached with the fact that Steven Gerrard said to his own players, "We must not let this slip now." That is truly painful. The next game, Liverpool went on to Crystal Palace and they went 3-0 up. But in an incredible fashion, Palace managed to form a comeback and draw the game 3-3. Liverpool well and truly bottled the league in one of the most incredible circumstances. And with City keeping up their form, they beat West Ham United 2-0 on the final day. Despite Liverpool beating Newcastle United on the final day means nothing. Luis Suarez and Sturridge had a fantastic year with 31 goals and 21 goals respectively. Some iconic players for this year was Yaya Toure at Man City, scoring 20 goals and being 3rd place in the top goal scorer chart, which is incredible for a player that typically isn't a striker or even really isn't a forward player. Some iconic players were the likes of Lukaku at Everton, Jay Rodriguez, and the most important one with 16 goals, Wilfred Boney at Swansea City. Of course, 3 teams got promoted and we got one new boy for Premier League, and that is Cardiff City. How you doing, boys? First time back in the top flights for 51 years, with Hull City and Crystal Palace joining the party. Who was the manager at Cardiff City? Well, halfway through the year. Yeah, you probably forgot. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The more you know. Looking over to Manchester United, and they had quite a poor season after having about 2-3 decades in the top 4 guaranteed. They finished 7th place in a collapse of a year after the loss of Sir Alex. No, he's not dead, he just retired. The man chosen to replace him by the man himself was indeed David Moyes, and he had a complete tragic year. A year that, looking back, will be something that Man U fans would have to get used to. Finishing 7th place and being 22 points behind 1st place Manchester City, and outside of any sort of European competition for the first time in I don't even know how long. One of the most impressive teams were Everton, finishing 5th place and qualifying for the Europa League group stage thanks to Roberto Martinez with Lukaku and Barkley and co. Big shout out to Stoke City too, as I didn't really speak about them that much, but they had again another stable year, 9th place, and I feel like I haven't said much about them yet, so there you go, boys. The 3 teams going down this year was Cardiff, Fulham and Norwich. Fulham and Norwich being a common trend of teams that may be going down and up quite often from now on. Manager of the season was the one and only Tony Pulis. Tony Pulis won Manager of the Year. Wow. A certain young manager called Mauricio Pochettino was having a great time too, finishing 8th place, with some great players such as Adam Lallana, Luke Shaw and Jay Rodriguez. And here's the update for where is Allardyce? Well, he's at West Ham. I've got not much else to really say to that, really.
Wow, that's crazy that, like, Man City won the league with kind of not as much fanfare as it Liverpool and Chelsea having the biggest dogfight of them. Man United fell off a cliff.
Like, understandably though. I mean, they just went through a management change.
Yeah. A legendary manager left. Yeah. Like, it's like when Tom Brady left the Patriots. Like, that's kind of similar to that, but not really. I get it, but Cardiff coming in, like, so that's more of like, is it a Welsh and English deal here? Premier League.
Maybe
that's continuing my questioning of that. So that's what I'm wondering right now. I'm sure it's so busy. It's so busy. This video is so busy. I'm just like, oh, what? But by the time it sinks in, we're on a different season. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to. There's a couple of ones where it's this kind of type of screen where we didn't pause. I'm trying to just let it soak in a little bit. So it's probably not going to help, but we'll have to go back and watch it again. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch this video, dude, like 5 more times. At least.
Yeah, 100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. No, not the winners Chelsea, but Burnley, where hey, Chelsea walked to the Premier League in a emotional fashion, bringing back Jose Mourinho, and it was absolutely sensational. With an iconic duo of Diego Costa and Eden Hazard, with only 3 losses all year, they walked to the league title. With Man City second, Arsenal third, and Man United making their way back up with a 4th place finish, thanks to the new manager, Louis van Gaal. Mauricio Pochettino has also just joined Tottenham Hotspur, and Neil Warnock went to Palace, and then got sacked about 5 months later. What happened to the relegation battle? Well, Burnley went down, which is quite frustrating. The relegation battle went down to the final day with Hull City, Newcastle 2. Hull City had to beat Manchester United to stand a chance, and sadly they drew 1-1. Newcastle stayed up after a 2-0 win against West Ham with an incredible and emotional goal by Jonas Gutierrez, who survived cancer early that year. The final day also had one of the most incredible results I've seen in recent years, and that was Stoke City 6, Liverpool 1. In what was Steven Gerrard's final game, it was an incredibly embarrassing way to go out. Leicester City also caused what is seen as one of the greatest ever escapes. After being bottom at Christmas and almost looking dead and buried, they brought back one of the most incredible comebacks in recent Premier League history. The only one really competing against it is the one from West Bromwich Albion. Out of their last 9 games, after only winning 4 times all year, they won 7 out of the last 9, and despite looking a sure thing to get relegated, they finished 14th and were cleared a drop by 6 points. One of the best stories this year in the Premier League was by Southampton, Swansea and Stoke yet again. Southampton in 7th place and qualifying for Europa League football. A fantastic job was being done down at the Saints by the man in charge, Ronald Koeman. One of the best players was a man which has got a lot of Premier League, the streets won't forget vibes, Graziano Pella. Shout out to some fantastic players this year that will stay in my memory. Charlie Austin at QPR scoring 18 goals, and Saido Berahino scoring 14 for West Bromwich Albion. Top goal scorer this year being Sergio Aguerooo, and a young lad called Harry Kane that scored 21. I wonder if we're going to see him anytime soon. Manager of the year was Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, player of the year being Eden Hazard, and young player of the year being Harry Kane at Tottenham Hotspur. Chelsea cleaned up a lot of the plaudits, and a nice surprise in the team of the year was Ryan Bertrand of Southampton as left back. What a completely normal year. I'm sure that Chelsea, United, Liverpool, or Arsenal will win the league again. I'm sure of it.
I've started to, every time this dude says something about, I'm sure they'll do this, they'll probably, it means that they'll do the opposite.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh yeah, I feel that. I mean, it's just like you can't. It's not predictable, dude.
There's a lot of revolving door when it comes to who's on top, who's on bottom.
Yep.
Makes it interesting. Makes it very entertaining.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What the Leicester has won the league.
Wow.
Leicester has won the league. Leicester has won the Premier League. Leicester City has won the Premier League. Leicester City, despite being dead last in March last year and having to win 7 of their last 9 games to even stay up in the first place, they have won the Premier League. To say that this was insanity is an understatement and is, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest achievement in Premier League history. Full stop. And maybe I want to say the best achievement in football history at this stage, because this will never be repeated ever again. Nigel Pearson was at Leicester but left at the start of the year, and an Italian with some pedigree called Claudio Ranieri took charge, with some new signings at the likes of Riyad Mahrez and N'Golo Conte joining the current in form Jamie Vardy, formed some of the best partnerships that we've seen in Premier history, winning the Premier League for the first time in their 132-year history with 2 games left to spare, after Tottenham failed to beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Praised as the Battle of the Bridge, a certain Eden Hazard goal gave Leicester the title on that day. Never forget, at the start of the year, Leicester was odds on to get relegated yet again, with 5,000 to 1 odds, and completely changed how betting odds is being seen for the future. A record was also broke this year after Jamie Vardy scored 11 games in a row after scoring against Man United, and surpassed Ruud van Nistelrooy's record with 10 games in a row of a goal. In reality, I should probably just cover this entire year with Leicester, and I probably should, but you're here for more of a review, so I will provide. We saw a new team to the Prem, and for the first time ever in their history, in Bournemouth, joined with Watford and Norwich City. You're going to notice Norwich City going down a few times now. Getting relegated this year was Aston Villa with 17 points, only scoring 3 goals this year and being by far one of the greatest disappointments in recent Prem history. People foresaw Aston Villa to have a poor time, but not in the way that we see here, as it was the first time they've been relegated since 1987, and they were joined as well by Newcastle United and Aston Villa both being sent down at the same time, and being sent down in a painful way by their arch rivals Sunderland. Jose Mourinho was sacked at Christmas and Gus Hiddink took place. Brendan Rodgers was also sacked this year at Liverpool, and a man by the name of Jurgen Klopp showed up. I wonder if we'll see him again. One of the weirdest stories this year was the collapse of Chelsea. Despite having the longest unbeaten run of 15 games, they finished the year 10th.
Oh my god.
They finished the year 10th. People believe that Chelsea just refused to play for Jose Mourinho, hence why he was sacked at Christmas, as Eden Hazard, who last year was the player of the year, failed to score a single goal in that season until April, and breaking the record for the lowest finish ever by a Premier League title holder. In fairness, the quality for this league was pretty poor, as Man City were also in a bit of a transitional period, as plans were being made for a new man on the horizon to replace Pellegrini. We will hear about him soon. For the title race, it was really only Tottenham Hotspur that was really leading a charge with Leicester, and unfortunately, due to poor form at the end of the year, they in fact finished 3rd and behind Arsenal again. A team that does get forgotten about though is Southampton, as they did have a fantastic year yet again, finishing 6th place, thanks to some great management by Ronald Koeman yet again. Shout outs to the honourable streets we never forget players, such as Aguerooo for Watford with 15 goals, Jermaine Defoe for Sunderland with 15 goals, and also let's count Troy Deeney as well. Lukaku had a fantastic year for Everton, scoring 18 goals, and top goal scorer was indeed Harry Kane with 25, with Aguerooo and Jamie Vardy just below 24. Manager of the year was obviously Ranieri, player of the year obviously was Jamie Vardy, and young player of the year was a young lad over at Tottenham in Dele Alli. And how can I forget another streets will never forget player that has been doing very well for West Ham and qualifying for Europe, by the name of Dimitri Payet. What a season he had. So with some expectation on Leicester, can they go on to win the title again, or at least come top 4?
Wow. So big takeaways there. Leicester topping the league right there. How about that? Nice underdog story.
Yeah, underdog. Like that. It's like, dude, they came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
5,000 to 1 odds.
5,000 to 1. What?
Whoever, like, I don't know if betting on sports over there is legal or if it's as big as it is here in America, but if someone put money on them,
You got paid.
they eating filet mignon.
Yeah, they got paid. You know who it is who made that money? Is the diehard fans, probably.
Yeah,
The ones that are
diehard.
like, I'm gonna bet for them no matter what.
Yeah,
And it finally paid off.
yeah, and they had a good summer holiday when they won.
I bet the bookers like, there's no way we can pay that.
Yeah, like we don't have that money. Come on.
That money. What the hell? Oh my god, dude.
And Chelsea falling off a cliff like Man United did the previous season. Ugh.
It's just crazy how like there's seasons to a team's like life, you know.
Yeah.
But for every fall, there's someone that captures that underdog story that let's say runs with it. You know, there's for everyone that has drops off. Let's say there's not doing as expected or projected. There's someone out of nowhere that does phenomenal, that becomes riveting to watch.
Yeah.
So.
And in that case, the first was Chelsea and the second was Leicester.
They almost got relegated. I remember very well that there was some great fear at Leicester halfway through the year, being near the bottom of the table. However, they did survive, obviously, quite comfortably and came 12th place. Winning the Premier this year was Chelsea Chelsea? Chelsea came 10th last year after winning the league, and now they've won the league again. So,
wow. So it was the opposite of what happened. The underdog became the underdog again, and then the giant that fell down got back up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wow.
So they went from 1st to 10th to 1st. Welcome to Chelsea. A new man was in town at Chelsea, and it was another Italian that won the league by Antonio Conte. And also there was a new fresh look for the Premier League with a complete new rebranding called the Premier League, which is not that hard to think of, with the iconic purple line and the kind of like zigzag pointy like branding that he got, and it's quite iconic now that I think of it. Conte's Blues took charge across the entire year and won the league with 2 games left to go. Diego Costa and Eden Hazard showed up yet again. Tottenham Hotspur also had a great year, finishing second place, and some of the young players were really coming to their maturity now, with Christian Eriksen, Moussa Dembele, Harry Kane, Dele Alli. Times were exciting for Tottenham Hotspur as they only came second, but yet again was quite threatening, only losing 4 times all season. Man City only came third. That was seen as a disappointment due to the new man in charge in Pep Guardiola. This was seen as a transitional year for Man City as they still had a lot more to do and to get players into their system. Finishing 4th was Liverpool as well. That finished 1 point ahead of Arsenal, and Man United finished 6th and qualified for the Champions League thanks to winning the Europa League. The shout out team for this year is most definitely Bournemouth, who finished 9th place. After many teams writing them off yet again due to their size, their great manager Eddie Howe, with a fantastic duo of Josh King and Callum Wilson, dragged them up to 9th place. Who got promoted? Well, I'm glad you asked. Burnley went back up to Premier League, joined with Middlesbrough and Hull City. Burnley and Hull both bouncing straight back up, but Borough back in the Premier for the first time in 7 years. Another big team got the drop, and in disastrous fashion too. With the previous year being Aston Villa and Newcastle, this time it was a turn for Sunderland. After having Sam Allardyce at the start of the year, they brought in David Moyes, and it just was not enough, and finished the year with a whimper, 16 points below the drop. Sunderland were joined with Middlesbrough and Hull City too. Middlesbrough signing some interesting players with Victor Valdez and Negredo with Cranker's side, but just not being able to get goals and win games. And Hull City sadly not being able to survive the drop yet again. But Burnley does survive for the first time since the Premier League's history. Some shout out players for this year was Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal, 24 goals, and Lukaku as well at Everton with 25. And of course Harry Kane won Golden Boot with 29 goals, but you probably expected that. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was also at Man United for their current side. Who's in charge, you say? Jose Mourinho took charge at Manchester United with a new era and a new idea. Can United get back to where they belong with a record signing of Paul Pogba from Juventus too? So the streets will never forget this time Josh King and Christian Benteke at Palace. Manager of the year was Conte, and player of the year was Kante, and young player of the year for the second time in a row was Dele Alli. Jurgen Klopp is still at Liverpool, and they're starting to grow quite a decent team, qualifying back for the Champions League with the likes of Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino and Felipe Coutinho. One to keep an eye on, not like I already know what's going to happen.
Okay, so these are probably the worst times to pause right now because he's starting to make jokes from the end to the beginning of the new season. So I'm probably ruining all the jokes here because of the whole Leicester and Chelsea thing. Like I was in the middle of the joke, but we're just trying to absorb this shit, man.
Dude, I mean, it's so much, man. It's people don't understand how overwhelming it is if you haven't grown up in this culture. It's just like teams and why are there so many different teams that come up and relegated and promoted and what in the world's going on? But that's what makes the sport so riveting.
Right.
It's because it's constantly changing.
Yeah. We don't have that in American stick and ball sports. There's no regulation system in NFL or MLB or NBA. Like imagine if we got to see, Clemson or Alabama in the NFL, or like Duke or NC State in the NBA.
People would actually, it'd be worth it then.
Yeah,
it would be freaking worth it.
Yeah, there would be like a tribalism. Like sport would become more intense in America, at least in the stick and ball one. Motorsports another thing, but that would just change the whole complexion of everything.
It really would. And I think that's where they got it right, man. They got it right. And they make it so intriguing to watch because you're playing for something. You're playing for something to stay in. Like I would love that. I would love if the NFL did that with like colleges. I mean, it's impossible, but still that would be glorious to see. Because people would actually try hard then.
Yeah. And let me just put my tinfoil hat on for a second. Sport is already what the 1%ers use to keep everyone else distracted. And, this would just intensify that more. So come on, 1%ers. Do your thing.
We know you watch us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
All right. Let's see what joke we missed here.
Oh, probably a lot. But it's all right, man. I'm here for it all.
Let's do it.
after Pep Guardiola decided to stop taking the absolute mick and actually took the Prem serious. Man City went on to win the league. Wait, no, sorry. Man City went on to win the league by 100 points. What? First time ever in Premier League history that a team has won by 100 points.
Damn.
3 digits, and the famous Centurions. After only losing twice all season, scoring 106 goals with a plus 79 goal difference. Fair to say that no one else stood a chance. City's team was at complete full force with Sergio Aguerooo, Raheem Sterling and Leroy Sané tearing up the league week by week. Vincent Kompany, David Silva, the icons of the Premier League as well, completely dominating. Some may say that this is the best Premier League team in history, and for me personally, statistically, I think it is. In the top 4 was Man United, who came second place with a Jose Mourinho finish, doing quite well, but you just can't beat City this year. Tottenham Hotspur came third, still keeping their good form, and Liverpool as well, qualifying for the Champions League in 4th place. The surprise team of the season was indeed Burnley. Get it? I can actually speak about Burnley and not feel like I'm forcing it in. Burnley was by far the surprise team of the year, other than, of course, 100-point City, finishing 7th place and qualifying for Europa League football. The 3 promoted teams had some new boys in there as well. Of course, Newcastle came up, which we all know very well about, and 2 new teams as well for the first time in Premier League history. Brighton and Hove Albion and Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield being a massive shock being back in the top flight, and many people were seeing them to get sent down immediately, potentially beating that Derby record. However, they surprised many people against all odds and stayed up in a reasonably comfortable fashion too, finishing 16th place, 4 points above the drop thanks to great work from Wagner. And Brighton and obviously Newcastle stayed up too, therefore becoming the first time since 2011-12 season where all 3 promoter sides stayed up. Relegation battle went down to the penultimate game of the season with Southampton and Swansea up against it with Stoke City too. West Brom went down bottom but only by 5 points. There was a huge game on the penultimate game where Southampton played Swansea City and a Gabbiadini goal away at the Liberty gave Saints the 3 points and their survival. A huge game that year. And the Premier League had a new king in charge by the name of Mohamed Salah in his first season in the Premier League, breaking a record of scoring 32 goals in one season, which considering he's not a natural number 9, he's more of a forward winger, inside forward kind of player, that is incredible. How he came behind on 30 goals, of course, obviously. Aguerooo, despite being in a Centurion team, scoring so many goals, only got 21. Some shout outs this year is Vardy with 20 goals, and Glenn Murray, big up, with 12. Manager of the year, Pep Guardiola, and player of the year was indeed Mohamed Salah, with young player of the year being Leroy Sané. And by the way, I've kind of forgot about it, but guess who's still at Arsenal? Yep, Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger's been at Arsenal since this entire time almost. An emotional day at the Emirates where Arsenal beat Burnley 5-0 at home to send Arsene Wenger off in some fashion, leading to the end of an era. Oh yeah, by the way, I might as well, these are all of the records that City broke in this season. Most consecutive league wins in 18, equaled record of most consecutive away wins in 11, and of course breaking 100 points as well, with I'm pretty sure also the highest goal difference in Premier League history. So it was a decent team.
That's one way of putting it, saying it's a decent team. And this is a relatively new video. This is August 2023. We're recording this, so this is relatively a recent video. So this is the records are still standing for this one.
Crazy, man.
Amazing what that Abu Dhabi money will do.
I mean, right? Either you love it or hate it. That's so crazy.
Yeah,
so crazy.
Like I guess the only comparable thing would be like Kansas City's rise with Patrick Mahomes in the NFL right now. Like they are the team to beat, basically week in and week out of modern times, with Tom Brady retiring and not being at the Patriots anymore.
For many years, we have been waiting for a proper title fight. Not really since the 2011-12 year have we had a real tight head-to-head battle going down to the final day, and in this scenario going down to the final few minutes. This year was dominated by Man City and Liverpool. Man City and Liverpool going back and forth and pretty much winning every single game, it felt like, for the large chunk of the year. Liverpool being extremely unfortunate as they finished the league with 97 points, which almost in any other season other than this and the previous Centurions would win the league. Liverpool's only loss in this entire year was to Man City, and that was a 2-1 loss away at the Etihad. This game was incredibly pivotal considering there was a goal line clearance by John Stones that was fractionally fractionally still in the line. Despite Liverpool winning 10 of their last games in a row, a 0-0 draw against Everton was enough to stop Liverpool winning the league. On the final day, Man City beating Brighton 4-1 away. A fantastic title fight of two incredible teams that we thought we would never see ever again until, you know, last year. 3 teams came up to the Premier League in Wolverhampton Wanderers, Cardiff City and Fulham. However, the surprise team for this year was indeed Wolves, who immediately shot up the table at first time of asking and finished 7th place, taking that final Europa League spot and getting European football. A fantastic job by Nuno and their star striker Raul Jimenez and their main midfield maestro in Ruben Neves. However, sadly for both Cardiff and Fulham, they would go down. There wasn't too much of a title fight, Cardiff being sent down on the second to last game of the year. Huddersfield having a disastrous year and suffering from second season syndrome. From surviving in the first year, incredibly, they couldn't build on it and went down with only 3 wins and 16 points. Becoming the second time in Prem history that a team gets relegated in the month of March. In terms of top 4, Chelsea and Tottenham qualifies for UCL football, with Arsenal only 1 point behind Spurs. United with Jose Mourinho couldn't build on and he got sacked for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Speaking of sackings, Conte also left as well, with Sarri being manager for the rest of the year. And a new era over at Arsenal, with Arsene Wenger resigning and Unai Emery taking his place. The Golden Boot was shared across 3 players for the first time in many years, with 22 goals for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. Some shout-out players this year was Raul Jimenez, Paul Pogba and Gylfi Sigurdsson, with Manager of the Year being Pep Guardiola and Player of the Year being Virgil van Dijk, with Young Player of the Year going to Raheem Sterling of Man City. And the Team of the Year was completely full of Liverpool and City, other than one player in Paul Pogba. Despite Liverpool just narrowly missing out on the title, their season didn't end in vain, as they did go on to win the Champions League, beating Spurs in the final 2-0. I also cannot ignore 2 tragic events that happened this year too. Firstly, to Vichai at Leicester City, who perished in a helicopter crash outside the stadium, and also at Cardiff, where Emiliano Sala got lost during his flight over the English Channel and crashed into the sea, sadly losing his life.
Aww.
But I guess to end this with a more positive note, apologies. Liverpool didn't go invincible, so there's that. I get knocked down.
Nice to try and salvage that in a positive note.
Yeah, good on you for that.
I don't know. Maybe start with the negative and then end with the positive.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't. We don't make these kind of videos. It's enough to try and edit, reaction videos, which are the lowest hanging fruit of all time.
Yeah,
so.
could you imagine? Trying to make this? Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. Like, I appreciate the time it took for this man to do this.
Yeah, you and me both.
You are a fan of the sport.
Yeah,
and I respect
that.
Yeah,
and not just of your team, but all of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
The 1920 year is a year that people like to forget quite a bit for 2 reasons, or actually 3 reasons. 3 massive events happened this year. One was the fact that VAR was first introduced into the Premier League. The video assistant referee, that changed a lot of the game. A lot of chaos happened in this year and a lot of mistakes too. Number 2, of course, in 1920 was obviously the pandemic, where the season was halted over 3 months on the 13th of March 2020, resuming on the 17th of June and coming back on the 26th of July. And third is the fact that Liverpool won their first Premier League title since its creation and became all in all their 19th English title in their history. They also broke some records, including the earliest title win with 7 games to spare, and the biggest points lead at any time with 25, with also the most consecutive home wins, which was 24. In the top 4 was Man United and Chelsea, with Leicester dropping out and Leicester being a surprise team this year, being in the top 4 for a large chunk of the year, but ended with disastrous form and dropping out on the final few games. This year also had 2 very important campaigns, one being the Black Lives Matter campaign and the other being the NHS Tribute, where many of the teams had a NHS Tribute badge for the second half of the season. The relegation battle this year was fierce, but we need to know who went up in the first place. The 3 teams going up was Norwich City, Sheffield United and Aston Villa. Aston Villa finally coming back to the Premier League after 3 years, while Sheffield United came back for the first time in 12. Norwich went down convincingly and wasn't really in a fight whatsoever. However, the fight for relegation was between Watford, Bournemouth and Aston Villa, going down to the final day. Only 1 point separating all 3 teams, and Aston Villa staying up by a single point. Watford had to beat Arsenal away and they lost 3-2, with Aston Villa drawing 1-1 against West Ham, and that secured their survival. The surprise package this year alongside Leicester was Sheffield United, finishing the season in 9th place, which was impressive again for a newly promoted side, and Wolves yet again impressing also, still finishing in 7th place. Top goal scorer this year was Jamie Vardy, who came back to form, scoring 23 goals, and one of the most iconic players in this year was Danny Ings, scoring 22 goals for Southampton. Manager of the year was of course Jurgen Klopp, and player of the year being Kevin De Bruyne despite Liverpool's dominance, and young player of the year being Trent Alexander-Arnold, as Burnley finished 10th place. I had to say it.
Wow. So I guess that was a weird season, but then again, for all sports, that season was weird as hell.
It's almost like it shouldn't even exist, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just like, give it all a mulligan and try again next year.
Right.
It was just off.
Yeah, I mean, good on Liverpool for breaking those records, but then again, does it come with that kind of mulligan of, it was during a pandemic and we had a lot of other things on our minds at that time. Not only those campaigns for Black Lives Matter and the NHS workers, but not getting sick and dying.
Yeah, that thing. But I mean, that was wild, man. It was wild. Yeah, like not just football. Everyone felt that. It was just weird. It was just a weird point in time.
Yeah, and I guess that was the perfect time to introduce that electronic scoring or electronic, whatever that is, to look at where the ball is without fans there. That was the perfect time.
It really
for that.
was. It actually, you know what? It really was, because they would have had freaking riots in the stands.
Right.
So
it would have been 80s football hooligan riots all over again.
Yep. Man,
I mean,
coincidences, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Again, I had my tinfoil hat on when
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I'm like, coincidences? Interesting.
I think not.
I think not.
In the 2021 year, City won the league apparently, but it never happened. This year never happened.
What? Nothing
from the season happened. And Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield yet went down. I'm not going to say anything else because I'm convinced this season never happened. If you do want some memorable games from this year, we've got United 9, Southampton 0, Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2. But as I said, right, this never happened.
I'm missing something here.
That's the pandemic season where it's like he was like, I'm convinced it didn't even happen yet.
It was the pandemic. Yeah, you're right. Because America kind of came out of the pandemic a little quicker, not necessarily a little smarter, but okay, I get it.
So that's why he was like, it never happened. This season never happened.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that one. That took me a second. Sometimes it takes me a second.
You're good, man. I'm still catching up on the beginning, bro.
And we have now finally made it to the last Premier League season, or the last completed season. I have no idea how long this video is, but I'm pretty sure it's like over an hour long now. We had a fantastic year this year. Similar to the 18-19 year, we got trepped by Liverpool and Manchester City. Man City were 13 points clear at the top of the table, and Liverpool kept their form up, winning 10 games in a row. The wins were relentless, and it just wouldn't stop going, cutting their 13-point lead to a single point ahead of their meeting at the Etihad on the 10th of April, and it led to a 2-2 draw, a huge game of the season. It all went down to the final day, where Liverpool had Wolves at home and City had Aston Villa at home. Both teams were in incredible form and nothing was stopping them. Liverpool did their job and won their game, and all eyes was at the Etihad, where Aston Villa were 2-0 up in the second half, thanks to goals from Matty Cash and Felipe Coutinho. However, late in the second half, Man City pulled an incredible comeback. In the last 50 minutes, Gundogan, Rodri and Gundogan again scored 3 goals in a matter of 5 minutes, going on to win the game and to win the league in one of the most dramatic ways imaginable. A comeback in 5 minutes completed. Liverpool yet yet again, finishing behind City by a single point. However, the fight for top 4 was quite tasty between Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal. Arsenal was in 4th place and had the main dominance. However, they still had to play against Tottenham in North London derby and Newcastle away, and sadly in both these games they both lost. Spurs overtook Arsenal and claimed the top 4 spot. The story of Man United this year was by one player in Cristiano Ronaldo, returning back to his home where he made his name in his career, and it was a relatively okay season for United, finishing in an okay 6th place. While Oli went in November, Ralph Rangnick came over as manager for the rest of the year. West Ham being pretty good yet again, qualifying for the Europa League conference in 7th place. Looking down to the relegation battle, and it went down to the final day. There was real threat for teams like Everton, Leeds to go down, and they were up against it with Burnley. Norwich and Watford both were pretty poor throughout the entire year, and both were confirmed to go down with many games available. All eyes was on Burnley, Leeds and Everton. Everton went on a fantastic run in the final few games of the year, beating the likes of Chelsea at home and Manchester United, and securing a comeback on a penultimate game against Crystal Palace, and that confirmed their safety. Burnley and Leeds went to the final day level on 35 points. Burnley have to beat Newcastle at home and Leeds having to beat Brentford away. Burnley had the home advantage and also had goal difference too, so as long as they equal Leeds, they would stay up. But sadly, it did not go to plan for Burnley as they fell 2-0 down. Leeds going 1-0 up, then equalising 1-1, and then a winner by Jack Harrison in at a time secured survival for Leeds United as Burnley went on to lose at home to Newcastle 2-1. And also Sean Dyche got sacked too, which is also a bit of a shame as well. A record was also broke too, with Norwich going down yet again. They also broke a record of the worst goal difference since Derby County in 07-08. Golden Boot was shared yet again between Mohamed Salah and Heung-min Son at Tottenham Hotspur. Ronaldo came back, scoring 18 goals, which is respectable. Manager of the year being Jurgen Klopp, Player of the year being Kevin De Bruyne, and Young Player of the year being Phil Foden yet again. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is the entire history of the Premier League up till this season. And if you really want to know about this year, City will win the league probably. Arsenal came back with an actual title fight, and they probably won't win it. Going down as of right now, it's looking like it will be Southampton, but they could be joined by a multitude of teams and some big teams too in Everton, Forest, Leeds and Leicester. Oh yeah, Forest now here now, so welcome them back to the Prem. The top 4 will be also entering a new team in Newcastle, and Newcastle have all but confirmed their spot in the Champions League. There you go, boys. Thank you for the support.
Yes, Man City did win the Premier League for 2023. The rest I don't know too much about.
What a great video.
This was great. What's this guy's name? Visa. That's his name. Automatic 5, 6, 7, 8 thumbs up for you. This is amazing. Great work.
You put in some work, boy. That is...
Yeah, great job. And to our Stick and Ball Sports fans, thanks for getting us up to 100,000 subscribers. This one's for y'all.
Thank you.
And if you're new here, there's somewhere around to subscribe and watch another video. Wash your hands, scrub your toes, wipe your ass, blow your nose, embrace the suck.
Unplug and go out and play some football.
Also, let's pretend we score a goal. Yay! See y'all next time.
Later.
Fellas, we could be that mistake. Let's do this.